Yo, what's going on, guys? And today I wanted to talk about a report coming from my colleague Michael Scotto at HoopsHype. Yep, go check out our work at HoopsHype.com. And he put out that the Bucks are keeping tabs on a potential Zach LaVine trade. And you're thinking, why would that? First off, the Kings have been connected to Kyle Kuzma for years, and Vivek Ranadive and Kyle Kuzma just went in together on a volleyball league. And if you're wondering how the team or what would the trade be, basically the trade would have to be Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, and Gary Harris for Zach LaVine. This is not even getting into the draft picks, which you can tell me what would you think the draft picks would be. Now let me tell you what Michael Scotto wrote. So this is what Scotto put out on HoopsHype.com. Basically, the Milwaukee Bucks have conducted background due diligence on Zach LaVine and others around the league as usual. However, nothing is imminent as Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo nears a return from a low-grade abductor strain. But obviously, we all knew this part. Now, moving forward, what we know about the Bucks situation is if Milwaukee should become interested in LaVine, that Kyle Kuzma, Vivek Ranadive news and link is something that we've all been aware of for the last few years, as I had just aforementioned. LaVine is averaging almost 22 points this year, or so far, who's averaged 22 points in his Kings tenure on efficient 51% and 43% from three. And as a King so far, he's owed $47.5 million this season and just under $49 million in a player option for the 2026-27 season. So does that complicate things? I wouldn't say it complicates things, but it makes it very interesting when you look at it. And if you're a fan of the Bucks, I think they're a team that is in a position to be able to make a move, especially with the salaries that they have. Personally, if they could get themselves Zach LaVine, I mean, I've loved what Kevin Porter, I know Kevin hasn't been the healthiest, but Kevin Porter, Ryan Rollins, and I really, first off, and Cole Anthony, I think they've done an amicable job. I really like what they've been able to do as the team's guards. And they're more point guards, okay? And you would still be able to keep them if you were to do this trade. Sorry, I had an alarm go, but I think Bobby Portis is just a little bit starting to get over the hill. So if you're telling me you can, I think Kyle Kuzma's having a better year than he did last year. So with all of that being said, this would be, I think, an upgrade move. Like, if you're telling me you were able to turn Damian Lillard and Chris Middleton into Miles Turner, or yes, Damian Lillard and Kyle Kuzma at this point it would be, but you get what I'm saying. If you're telling me you were able to turn those two into Miles Turner and Zach LaVine, I think a lot of us would agree that that's a good deal. That's a deal that, especially with the draft pick situation, given now that you add that core to what I mentioned earlier, the Bucks team that is playing a lot better than what people would give you credit. And if I pulled up the Bucks stats right here, the Bucks this season are a team that, outside of Giannis, look, we've talked a bunch at Ryan Rollins. If you guys have been following this channel, you know the videos we made discussing how amazing Ryan has been this season and how enjoyable it's been for me, just as a defender, as a scorer, as a creator. He's really been a part of this team in a way that I'm unhappy, and I think anyone who's a fan of the squad is impressed by how consistent. And shout out Rajon Rondo and the training staff for that. Even Kuzma's had some moments with Miles Turner. He's been the 3-and-D guy that they've needed, while also you have Gary Trent, Derry Bird, AJ Green. I know Kevin Porter's played one game, but he was good last year. Cole Anthony's been solid. So then I think once you start getting down the bench, that's where, like, after that, like Taurean Prince, like he's still, like, he's had his moments, but it's not like what he's been prior. So I sit here and I wonder, okay, if this deal were to be available and you're the Bucks, why wouldn't you do it? I think this is one of those times where it makes sense. Now, if you're the Kings, let's shift this conversation over to the Kings. I mean, Kyle Kuzma's contract's very affordable. he actually, in theory, would help solve some of the issues that you guys have, which defensively and in theory, I mean, but at the same time, I just want to be clear that I don't think he would be this perfect solution, because I think the team is just kind of flawed. But man, it's also such a weird time, like, to be a Kings fan, because I like Doug Christie as a coach, but it goes to show this is just not a good constructed roster at all. Like, it's a very, very bad. And if I'm a guy like anyone on this team, we've seen how frustrated LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Sabonis have been. I really think that's because this team's just not, and they're not even playing their best defender in Keon Ellis. It's really mind-numbing and head-scratching when you see them, because what is supposed to happen right here, like we've talked about this before, this is just a team that looks like the rule of insanity, doing different things and expecting different results, which to me is just almost like mind-numbing, because does that even work? Is it even worth it? It just feels like they're just dragging the Kings. Because I said already, if you're the Bucks, you do this deal. If you're the Kings, you do this deal because you need something, and it feels like the team's fracturing. But outside of that, yeah, like, I can't realistically see a reason why you would do that. Obviously, like, the Kings, like, right here, I guess in theory, again, we just said it, Bobby Portis, Kuzma, better cost controlled contracts, you'd be able to get off of Gary Harris's. But then again, it's a weird one where, does it really improve your situation? Does it really make anything better? I don't know if it does. That's, with that all said, I don't know. I just think it's one of those situations that we won't know what happens till maybe post December 15th, probably January. I know the restriction for recently signed players is lifted on the 15th of December, but that's still too early for most teams to do a trade. And if things were really to start to happen, I would think it'd be closer to January or post New Year's, just because that's how the way the NBA operates. But I think it is something to monitor, especially if you're a fan of either team, if you want to see the reset, or if you want to see the Bucks continue to get, like, this is a really good Bucks team. Giannis Antetokounmpo looks insane. I think they did a good job of retooling the roster the best that they could, and finding moves like this, if they are able, because a player of LaVine's caliber won't be this cheap typically. And given the circumstances, I would say this makes sense if you were to jump on it. Let me know your thoughts.